afternoon. Welcome to the Countywide Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, and this is the meeting of March 25th. I would like to call the meeting to order. And looks like we have call to order and introductions at the same time. As I'll introduce myself. My name is Edie Takata. I am the chair somehow. From the city of Roanoke Park, and let's go in this direction.
Hi, Gavin Waters, citizen rep from Sebastopol.
Elizabeth Tyree, Sonoma County Regional Parks.
Alexander Oseguera, City of Santa Rosa.
Andrew Peters, Town of Windsor Public Works.
But they are on.
Marja Tar, citizen representative from Petaluma.
Janice Cater Thompson, Petaluma City Council member, and I'm on the board of directors.
JP Harris, City of Cotati.
Chris Barney, Sonoma County Transportation and Climate Authorities, or SETA-RC, formerly SETA-RCPA.
Dana Trey, SETCA. Steph Britt, SETCA.
Could I go over to the other side of the room?
Sonoma County Bicycle Coalition.
I'm Lori O'Gilly, and I'm the grant analyst for the county.
Adam Garcia, SCTCA.
Well done.
Rebrand.
Margot Kanyas, SCTCA.
Andrew Nichols, SETCA, and then I'll read the names on Zoom. So we have Camille Sullivan from City of Petaluma, Christina Panza from the Sonoma County Bicycle Coalition, David Ruperta, Giovanna Keys, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your last name, my apologies, from Sonoma County Public Infrastructure, Kelly McNerney, and Stephen Hunter.
Beautiful. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And just to check, do we have a quorum so that we have a meeting? Okay, Thank you very much. We do have a quorum to hold this meeting. Okay, item number 2, administrative items 2.1, receipt and approval of meeting notes of September, we have 2 sets, September 24th and January 28th. And staff, would we be considering these separately for approval? We can do it together. Okay, we can do it together, and if someone makes a motion. So let us, has everybody had a chance to read them, I hope, the meeting notes? I do have one correction or a question, clarification on the meeting notes of January 28th, item 2, approval of meeting notes. Stephen Schmitz moved for approval of the January 23rd and March 26th meeting minutes, Elizabeth Ridlington. So is that a person? So we can get a clarification on that.
Yeah, Santa Rosa City.
Okay, so second, okay. Okay. And if she's in the staff present or the guests, then that would be, because I didn't see her name there. Oh, it's up here, citizen representative. Thank you.
You say there were 2? I've only got 1 set of minutes, January 28th.
Yeah, I noticed that on the agenda, it says receipt and approval meeting notes September 24th and January 28th. It looks like I also only have 1 set. So maybe we can just consider 1 set. Which set did everyone get? January 28th?
Right. Maybe January 28th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Version?
Getting any emotion.
Yeah, but still.
Okay. We are double checking the agenda against. Okay. Maybe it's just my print version. Okay, so really, we're only considering then the January 28th. It's just my print version of my agenda. So can I entertain a motion to approve the January 28th?
January 28th.
A second.
Okay, well, just vote by concurrence, or if anyone has any problems with approving it. But we're all okay? All right, let's just consider it approved. Thank you. Okay, we're on item number 3, public comment on items not on the regular agenda. And let's recognize Eris Weaver.
If I'm going to give other people grief about not being mic'd, I should come use one too. I think you all know me, Eris Weaver Sonoma County Bicycle Coalition. A couple of things to share with you. I had the pleasure yesterday to spend all day down in San Francisco at a gathering of the staff from all 6 of the Bay Area bicycle coalitions, which was a wonderful opportunity to share what we're all doing and ways that we can work together and, problems that we were all having that we could, all brainstorm about, which was a wonderful experience. We're going to be hosting the next one next year and having all those folks come up here to Sonoma County. We had another one of our classes this past Saturday that we're doing in conjunction with Redwood Bike Share, teaching folks how to use the bikes, safety talk, how to download and use the app, get them fitted with a helmet and all of that. And of all the classes that we do, these have filled up the fastest. So they're popular. So we're going to be seeing if there's a way that we can do more. We do have a financial arrangement with Redwood Bike Share, so we'll have to see if we can continue that or find other money elsewhere, but it's being really popular with the general public. The other new class offering that we have coming up in April, we have one here in Santa Rosa and one happening in Petaluma in preparation for Bike Month. We have a workshop on bike commuting that is really targeting people who don't already ride that much. So do you have issues with knowing gear, or how do you deal with not having a shower at work, or what if it rains, and just how to plan a route and all of that stuff. And we're advertising that very widely in places we don't normally, so that we really get the people who aren't already doing it. So I think most of you are probably already on our email list, so hear that stuff, but also all the details are on our website at bikesonoma.org. Thanks.
Thank you. Exciting. Any other public comment? And in the gallery, see any hands raised? Okay. Right, we're on item number 4, regional funding 4.1, TDA Article 3, and do we have a staff report? All right.
Am I speaking loud enough? No, you must use my. I must use the mic, says Eris. Okay. Oh, good afternoon, everyone. Margot Kanyas. God, I do feel like a game show person here. Yeah, so I'm reporting back the Transportation Development Act, Article 3. We received 5 applications, which we have reviewed for a total of 1.5 million in rank order from about 600,000 down to 50,000. So at today's meeting, what we're looking to do is solicit your approval of this program and projects, of these projects. And also to review, we have 3 complete streets checklists that need to be approved. So as you'll see on the staff report, Rohnert Park and Sonoma are collaborating on that Copeland Creek Trail. Both of those have complete streets checklist because the amount to the grant exceeds the 250,000. And similarly for Santa Rosa, their school safety improvements. So I would ask if anybody has questions about the 2 projects. We do have representatives from Rohnert Park here, and also from Santa Rosa if anybody has questions about the checklist. Otherwise, we can move to approve those. And then subsequently, they'll be reviewed by our board in early May, and then we'll move on to submit them to MTC this summer. So Dana, help me out here. Is this, do we ask people to approve, or how does that move?
Yeah, so for the program of projects for TDA 3, it's we're asking for a recommendation of the program of projects to our board, and then this will go to our board in May. The Complete Streets checklists are attached, and I think it would be helpful for the project sponsors to just briefly talk through the Complete Streets, the projects with Complete Streets checklists and those checklists. We can take comments on the checklist if there are any at this time, or those comments could go directly to the project sponsors if folks haven't had a chance to review them now.
And for clarification, the checklists are, the review of the checklist don't have any impact on the TDA application approval of the slate.
Correct. But they are required, because the funding amount is over the $250,000 threshold.
Okay, so for it to be a complete application, then you would have to have an approved, reviewed checklist.
Reviewed.
So should we, yeah, maybe we should do the checklist first and then approve the slate?
Through the chair, if I
Sure.
may ask a clarifying point. Sonoma County Regional Parks took ours to the county BPAC for review of our checklist.
Correct. I think I did see an earlier date associated with that. So that'll be fine. I think Roanoke Park was pending and they were going to use this form for the review.
Correct.
So would you like to start, Edie, with just an overview, quick overview of the project?
Yes,
Okay.
the project that we are applying for TDA Article 3 monies and that we have submitted a checklist for your review is a trail from Petaluma Hill Road to the existing Crane Creek Regional Park. It's 1.8 miles. It is going to be a regular class 1 multi-use trail, so ADA compliant. Not sure what else to add to that. I mean, we are out to bid. I mean, it's not neither here nor there for the complete streets checklist, but other than that, I don't know if there's any questions, if anyone's had a chance to look at the checklist.
And clearly a collaborative partnership with the county because it's crossing the two jurisdictions.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Alexander, do you want to provide a quick snapshot of the school improvements?
I mean, sure, I could just kind of read off of this because this was kind of thrown together, I guess, more not at so our board brought up a fourth option for us when we had
Right.
brought them 3 options. So we kind of had to bring together a project that would like compile and take everything into account that they were looking for. So what they were looking for was miscellaneous school improvements that would increase safety and comfort for walking and bicycling students and parents, specifically for schools that will see an increase students due to the consolidation of Santa Rosa City Schools. So that was a huge topic and a huge point for them. So a lot of the schools that we've already done some safe routes to school walking audits with are the ones that we use because we knew we'd done an engagement, we'd been out there at the schools, and we know what the issues are. And so with that, there's a list of schools like Montgomery High School, Lincoln Elementary, Monroe Elementary School, Helen Lehman Elementary School, JX Wilson, Spring Lake Middle School, and Santa Rosa High School. So some of those were added even though we haven't done walking audits yet, but I think that there could be some time to engage with those schools as well. I don't know if I need to run through all this, but it's pretty much to do improvements like adding hawks, RFBs, crosswalk improvements and things of those nature, creating better visibility for folks crossing the street as well. Just trying to make it more convenient and comfortable for kids and parents to get their kids to school.
Exactly. Thank you. And again, a checklist because you just squeaked over the line with $251,000. So there is a complete streets checklist that needs review and approval. So on that note, are there any further questions or clarifications, or may we move forward with the approval?
Okay, so we'll consider the checklist reviewed. We don't see any more comments, and can I entertain a motion to approve the slate of projects for TDA Article 3?
Motioned.
Okay, we have
A second.
okay, we have a second. Okay, let's take a vote. Because we do have a quorum. So if we have a motion and a second, and to approve the slate of projects for TDA Article 3, and those who approve, say aye or raise your hands.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, we'll consider it passed. Thank you.
Forgot to ask, does that include the light across Petaluma Hill? This portion of the
Not for
road?
TDA. The TDA has to be construction of a trail.
Just the trail.
Yes, so we are funding along with regional parks that light across. So as an explanation, the question was, does the project or does the TDA, and I'm going to clarify, include the pedestrian activated traffic signal across Petaluma Hill Road from between SSU, between Sonoma State University and the beginning of the trail? The project in total does. The TDA Article 3 funding is only for the trail. Yes, very exciting. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to item 4.2, County Safe Routes to School, SRTS school prioritization. And this is an informational article, informational item from staff.
That is correct. So I'll continue to hold the microphone. Drew, would you like to transition to the presentation? Oh, thank you. Okay, there we go. Again, I am Margot Ocañas. I am Senior Transportation Planner here with SCTCA, and I have the pleasure of project leading an expanded Safe Routes to School initiative for the county and for the city of Healdsburg. So I want to take the opportunity today to give you a quick soundbite on the movement of this project forward and also to solicit any input on a data-driven exercise that we will be doing. So again, this is a grant that was funded or is being funded through an SS4A, Safe Streets and Roads for All, fiscal year 23. Because we had agreement with them before January 20th, we still have our monies. We're anxiously awaiting any updates on a fiscal year 24 awarded application. So next slide, please. Just a brief overview. You are well familiar with our organization. I am in the process of actually meeting with handfuls of superintendents from around the county, as well as teachers, or I'm sorry, as well as principals. So this is always a slide that I like to put up to, I guess, visually represent the blending of the more efficient blending of our organizations between SCTCA and our CPA. Next slide. Many of you may be familiar with Safe Routes to School. What I'm trying to represent here is that the program nationally generally has a non-infrastructure side and an infrastructure side. And in many thanks to our partners at Sonoma County Bicycle Coalition, we have been very strong in the non-infrastructure realm. So safety education and active transportation encouragement type activities. Where we haven't focused so much recently is on the infrastructure side. So next slide. Again, as I shared, Sonoma County has been a great partner. And next slide, please. In particular, the areas that they have focused on are things like the Bike Everywhere Day, Bike to School Day, Walk to School Day. They've also been really instrumental in gathering important data. You'll see an example there of travel mode data, which it is actually quite a simple hand-raising exercise, but we collect the data from each and every student in a classroom and ask them the mode that they're using to school and leaving the campus. Not only is that important for infrastructure planning, obviously we'd like to know which modes are actually in most use. It also provides a baseline of data going forward to see if those modes shift. And it is the type of data that is really critical when we're submitting for applications. Question?
Yeah, Gavin Waters from Sebastopol.
Yes.
So I see 64% single family vehicle.
Correct.
And walking and biking is a combined 9%, school bus, roughly 20% average. So what would you say is the reason for that shift? Because I understand that that's a shift from the 1950s, 60s, 70s, where there was a much higher percentage of students taking the bus or walking or bicycling. And, forgive me because this is kind of a random question, but.
So I want to make sure I'm understanding. You're asking me what are some of the situations that have prompted the change away from students using active transportation to get to school.
Exactly. And taking, the family car instead.
I think there are a couple of variables, and again, Eris, if there's anything you'd like to chime in. One is, I think from the school bus side, I've experienced on my own side that there have been cuts back on school busing. So there are restrictions. I have observed in jurisdictions where they have limited the school bus. And then secondly, I think inherently we've just seen perhaps as in those earlier days, more and more family adult members are working, they've got busier schedules, the time it takes to travel with a child to the school, back house, they just perceive it as longer time that isn't available in the morning. I also think there's probably a perception of unsafeness. Roads have gotten busier, perhaps the routes haven't been maintained, and for the safety's sake, we've gotten a little bit more risk averse in spending time in public space. So I have a feeling that's influenced it as well. We're really trying, the goal is to, through expanding our efforts into the infrastructure realm, to really try to change the context of that walking environment. So perhaps we can claw back some of those residents actually live in a very walkable distance from the school. But those are sort of my perceptions off the top of the head. But I welcome if other people, I'm a parent as well. I can proudly say that my kids walked and bicycled in middle and high school, and they were in the minority. But if any other parents would like to step up, so please.
I've seen some really good, well-done research looking at that. There's been a shift in parenting norms, like how many kids we have, how late we have them in life, and the distance that children are allowed to go unaccompanied from home has been shrinking steadily every decade, to the point that, well, I took public transit alone at 8 in Los Angeles, right? Who would do that even here now?
And I'll add that in Sonoma County, there has been a shift in many cases away from the neighborhood school. There's a lot more people that are coming from farther away. And again, maybe 2 miles a generation ago didn't feel that far away and people were walking even 2 miles. But, now even this school, McDowell, I don't know if this data is tied to this. I think it's McDowell's data actually, but at the top and at the bottom. But, this school has, 20% live more than 2 miles away. And that's actually one of the higher numbers, of families that live within the 2 mile radius of this school. So yeah, that's made a difference.
Is there a correlation between that and rates of childhood obesity?
I bet if you were to draw the lines, there would be a relationship. I think one of the things that I found having come up from the city of LA, that the Los Angeles Unified School District was very enthusiastic about being a partner in Safe Routes to School because they do deal with a high level of obesity with their students. And so adding that extra element of physical activity in the day. The challenge, though, is depending on the age of the student, who's the final decision maker about the mode that they use. And so with younger children, it is challenging unless there is a family member, a caregiver, an adult who is willing to travel with a child. It's very unlikely that below 5th grade, a child will travel on their own. So that while this may seem like a bit of a segue, one of the things that we will be doing as part of our infrastructure planning is, when we are engaging middle and high schoolers, is actually to do shredding and workshopping with the students themselves, who tend to be the independent travelers. So again, at the end of the day, they may not be the decision makers on their modes, but if they are given the option and they can make that decision, we'd like to learn more from them, as they are the one that are having that personal experience. But I think you've opened a good topic for conversation. I think that the map that you'll see here, and again, many thanks to Sonoma County Bicycle Coalition for their good work in this arena, but the map on the lower right-hand side, which says GIS mapping, is that principals have been really great about forwarding the street addresses or home addresses of the students, minus all the obvious private information. And so what we've done is we've plotted that. And the reason that again is important is the circles are a quarter mile, half mile out to a mile. And so helping us understand that density of students that live within those rings is helpful. It gives us a baseline and what modes they're actually using with the hope that we can shift them. If we can make that network of streets initially in close proximity to the street really comfortable, there may be the decision to switch decision from vehicle to walking. So, yes.
My grandson, who's in 6th grade this year, but he, since 4th grade or 3rd grade has been walking, but he has buddies and they all meet at his house. And then they walk as a group. And then his brother, who's 16 now, you know, my husband will drive across town to drive him to school, and he could walk to school. So it's two totally different things, but it was really the buddy system that they
That's
all
great.
have a great time meeting in the morning.
Doing what I guess I'll call walking buses and bike trains. So again, I led a bike train for much of middle school with my children. It is a lot of boots on the ground. It is a lot of micromanaging. If there was a way to institutionalize that, we'll try to break the code. The unfortunate thing is most of those types of activities are shouldered on volunteers, which is great, but there's not durability to that. So again, if there's a way to work with the schools to somehow institutionalize it programmatically, the hope so. And yes, by high school, that also becomes a challenge because the enrollment boundaries, obviously for high school, are significantly larger. So you definitely have people crossing towns, and maybe to the point of the decrease in walking is charter schools don't have enrollment boundaries. So again, that evolution and quite the strong popularity of charter schools means that a large portion of kids are not going to their neighborhood school, but opting to permit in elsewhere, or apply elsewhere. Okay, so great work that is being done by Sonoma County Bicycle Coalition in partnership with our own team. Next slide, please. But we now have the opportunity to focus on the infrastructure planning that is funded by this new grant. Next slide, please. There are basically two geographical orientations of this project, which have both kicked off. We are doing a countywide Safe Routes to School project. So we will be focusing, and I'll walk through what the steps of that are. And we are also focusing specifically in the city of Healdsburg. So when we prepped the application, they asked if we could do all the 6 schools within their jurisdiction. So the deliverables out of the county level will be this ranking of the schools of most need at the county level, as well as developing Safe Routes to School plans, which I'll explain in a moment, for the 10 to 15 top schools after we rank order them. And then ultimately in the city of Healdsburg, we will develop Safe Routes to School plans for all 6. The idea is to develop these very competitive, robust infrastructure plans so that by the time the grant wraps, we're ready to pivot and slot them into grant applications to get the implementation monies. So next slide, please. So a couple goals that are a little bit new as a result of this expanded scope is to develop a really transparent, I'd say, roadmap or blueprint for the Safe Routes to School program. We're in the process of finalizing the universe of schools. As Alexandra mentioned, there's some schools that are closing in Santa Rosa. That's not uncommon around the county. So getting that universe of which schools are actually operating right now and rank ordering them. But we want to be very clear with the jurisdictions throughout the county that as we direct kind of our staff or our monies to certain schools to do planning, why we're targeting those neighborhoods. So it allows us to be more proactive as opposed to reactive in our infrastructure planning. Secondly, we really would like to bolster, enhance the competitiveness of these infrastructure projects. Part of it is that in thinking more about climate change mitigation as well as mobility, that rolls into the competitiveness, but also thinking about opportunities to bundle schools or look at corridors where there are multiple schools and really bulk up the size of this infrastructure application. The third point is also to leverage more partnerships. I think SCBC has done a great job of building wonderful relationships with local school administration. This is a great opportunity to kind of take it up to the next level of key stakeholder, which is the superintendents. You all have a lot of districts up here, I have to say. Getting to know those superintendents and also sort of listening to them and framing safe routes to school in a way that helps them meet their own agendas or milestones or strategic plans. There may be, to the earlier point, physical activity milestones, there may be clean air milestones, there may be other strategic district initiatives that by opening the conversations with those superintendents, we become more aware of that, and then we can shape the framing and how we're kind of thinking about these plans so that their partnership makes sense to us and we're not viewed sort of as an extra thing that they need to do, but rather a partner in helping to move some of their items down the road. So building those relationships and leveraging whatever plans they have, as well as getting to know them better. So next slide, please. So this brings me to the prioritization. As I mentioned, the goal really is to be more proactive as opposed to reactive when we're thinking about where we're going to direct our resources. So we're looking to build a Safe Routes to School prioritization methodology. And in essence, what that is taking, as reflected here, basically 7 buckets of data and adding a certain weight to them. You sort of build out the calculation, and then you get a rank order of those schools from most need to, in essence, least need. So the areas that we're looking at, again, trying to take into consideration a combination of mobility, health and safety, some climate change mitigation, and equity. These are the indicators that we're looking at. So for the active mobility, obviously, we're looking at crashes, sort of anything that happens within a quarter mile of the school. Obviously, we're concerned about student crashes, but we want that neighborhood or that close proximity to be safe. So we'll look at all ages, all days for those crashes. The school zone density, I showed you an earlier map with the locations, the home locations of students. Schools that generally have a high density of populations in that walkable walk shed, I guess, that quarter mile, the higher that density of students and the higher those crashes, you would want those schools to float to the top, knowing that your investments and improvements in those areas have the ability to more effectively change that metric of getting more students hopefully to walk. So that bit of information is dependent on securing those home addresses from each and every district in this county. So that is a work in progress. Safety need, obviously we can leverage Vision Zero dashboard, which has the data available to us. And in many ways, we like to think about Safe Routes to School as Vision Zero youth. Student health, many of you may be familiar with the Healthy Places Index, as well as a climate adaptive indicator. And for equity, we like to look at the free and reduced price meal, kind of a proxy for social equity. So we're considering these 7 metrics and their data sources. And next slide, please. This is more of a description of actually what that data will be. And much of it tends to be data collected within that 1 quarter mile buffer. The reason being is that if we go much larger in the buffer, there's the probability of those zones overlapping with another school and it becomes redundant, et cetera. So next slide is the remaining 3. And I could sort of stop here for the moment to see if you have any questions about kind of what we'd like to do is reflect the reproach. And if you have any comments or inputs or things to consider. We do recognize that we have a unique environment here where we have an urban context for the county and we also have a rural. So I'll be very transparent at this point that we'll develop the methodology, we'll run the schools through it and see how they rank order. After that, we may have to assess, is there really a distinction between rural and urban, and do we need to rethink or trigger the algorithm accordingly? But you had a question.
Yeah, are you thinking about updating the equity metric based on the fact that I think pretty much every child is eligible for free lunches and breakfasts at this point in California, if I'm not mistaken?
They are, although there is quite a range here in the county. So there are some schools that are in the high 80s and there are some that are in the 30s or 40s. So at this point, that's not necessarily one that I was going to change over because I seem, unlike other jurisdictions where I've worked where everything's like at a 98% FRPM, that doesn't seem to be as much of a, there seems to be a range here in the county. But good point. Yes.
Did you say you were doing all elementary and all schools basically in Sonoma County?
That I am,
Are you evaluating all schools or only ones that are working directly with the coalition?
no, we are doing all the schools. In fact, maybe I'll just leapfrog to something that's later in the presentation. I had the opportunity to meet with, it's called the Leadership 40, which is a monthly convening of all the superintendents in the county. So the opportunity to provide an overview of this upcoming project. And we made it very clear that we'd like to reach out and have each of the superintendents confirm the list of schools in their district that are operating. Because we can pull a lot of we can pull data from Office of Education, et cetera, but we are finding that things are rather dynamic at the moment. So both confirming the public and the private schools in the incorporated and the unincorporated. And right now, I don't have the final list, but it's in the ballpark of about 210 schools.
I would be really interested to see data for our local school that you gather for Thomas Page Academy.
No, absolutely. And the hope is that, well, the plan would be, we want to be very transparent with this ranking. So showing the ranking, and then obviously each jurisdiction may be interested in what their own ranking is within their jurisdiction. I think the conversation that will come, that will evolve with SCBC is, it's clearly a great roadmap for directing infrastructure planning, which tends to be rather time and resource intensive, as is the education. But whether we want to more effectively sync when we're doing education and infrastructure planning at the same time. I know that one of the challenges that SCBC has had is getting the door open with, it takes a lot to sort of knock on the door of a local school and say, we're here, we're offering these funded services. That again was another reason for trying to expand the relationship building with the superintendents, because once they are familiar with the program, it's very helpful to have them endorse the program to their local principals and kind of help expedite the introduction for either the education services or the infrastructure planning. Great. Any other comments about the data, the prioritization? So I'm in the process of finalizing the universe of schools while we're also doing the methodology, and we would anticipate having the ranking by the end of the school year or in the May timeframe. Next slide, please. So so I wanted to give you a little bit of background about a Safe Routes to School plan development, which is probably not unknown to you, but the first part is obviously a site assessment. Perhaps you have participated in them. If they're coming to a town near you, I welcome you to join us for a site assessment. So basically it's a walk of the neighborhood, and then we get into a room and do some workshopping, but a highly interactive session with the goal of soliciting as much and as robust input as we can get. We do invite the city engineers to join us for these site assessments, as well as local police, possibly even the fire department. In some cities where there is a bicycle or a pedestrian sub-advocate group other than SCBC, obviously welcome them to participate. The more voices that we hear, the better for our engineers who really get a sense of what the issues are. And next slide, please. Oh, that's an example of an invite that will go out to the school for a site assessment. Next slide, please. But we really want as much input as possible so we can determine which treatment out of our toolbox makes the most sense. So it it is yet to be seen, but we've done some really interesting things in other jurisdictions that include reconfiguration of roads from 2 ways to 1 way with dedicated center medians to really channelize the traffic. We know that pickup and drop off are the bane of most people's existence in and around a school in the morning and the afternoon. So how to make that more predictable, to give sort of less flexibility to where drivers are moving in and out in those spaces that are so heavily populated with the vulnerable youth. So we'll tap our toolbox, and the next slide, the goal will be to develop this a snapshot of a potential infrastructure improvement plan. So pretty robust listing of the treatments and where they're located. Another important part of this Safe Routes to School planning, and this is next slide, please, is tapping a jurisdiction's approved ATP or other plan that may be existing. So for example, and maybe, I think this might be Healdsburg and somebody else, is somewhat, thank you, okay. Is we also feel that Safe Routes to School is a great opportunity to actually manifest and help build out elements of the active transportation plans. So when we are doing our workshops, we will lay out the ATP proposed corridors on those maps within the school zone and have parents and student comment as to, are they using segments of this route? And if so, what are some of the ideas of how we can make it more comfortable? So really trying to take advantage of helping to build out, obviously not only the Safe Routes to School routes, but helping the city meet its longer range adopted plans. Next slide. So this is just a quick overview of the schedule. As I mentioned, had the opportunity to meet with the superintendents earlier this month, working on the prioritization. We've already started in the city of Healdsburg and meeting with all the principals. We'll be out walking neighborhoods in April. We'll have City of Healdsburg's infrastructure plans completed probably in the fall of next year. And then similarly, we'll kick off the planning around the county. I can't tell you now where those 10 or 15 schools will be in the county. That will be informed by the prioritization. Have the costs developed by spring of 2027 at the end of the grant period, and the timing may be such that we will hear of a grant funding opportunity opening up in spring of 2027 or summer of 2027 so that we can pivot and drop those applications into the queue. Next slide. Yes.
Sorry, quick question. Did you cover the prioritization criteria and how schools are prioritized?
Run that by me again.
Did you cover the prioritization, how the schools for the walkthroughs are prioritized?
Well, for City of Healdsburg, there are 6 schools and we're doing all 6. And then for the county, once that rank ordering of the 200-ish schools are completed, we will look at the top 10, possibly depending on budget, the top 10 or top 15 schools of that prioritization, and we will develop an infrastructure plan for that. So by the end of this grant, we will have 6 from Healdsburg and let's just say 10 from the county. That's 16 completed infrastructure plans that will be grant ready to slot into an application. Now, that's not to say part of the reason for having the city engineers, for multiple reasons, participate in this process is there are obviously going to be a spectrum of treatments. Some that, you know, they could be signage, they could be a striping that the city could handle, or they could be a vegetated water capturing curb extension, which requires money and time. So depending, we'll sort of list out near-term versus more capital-intensive treatments. Some of those may get plucked off early, but the remainders that require funding, we'll put into the application.
Oftentimes Sebastopol is not prioritized on those lists. My casual observation, because it's a relatively wealthy area.
Mm-hmm. So that's why I said we're going to see how, if we just sort of put all the data and see how the ranking comes out, we may have to make some decisions that we want to be more representative regionally. So we may have to tweak the algorithm to ensure that all regions are benefiting. And this is a fact sheet. We're in the process of launching our program page as I speak. So this fact sheet will be available, and if I can make it available to you, it's actually bilingual. Happy to share it with you. I probably took up way too much time, but welcome any questions, concerns, clarifications.
Anything from the floor, anything from the gallery up there in remotely? Exciting project. I know that, we'll be looking forward to seeing the data and seeing how we can use it, and anything that comes out of the toolbox that pops out that we can do. Sure.
Absolutely.
Very exciting. Thank
And
you.
again, many thanks to Christina Panza. I have arrived here a little less than a year ago, and she has been very patient with my, just let me soak it all up from you. So thank you, Christina, for all your great partnering. So,
Thank you. It's been a good process so far.
excellent.
Thanks, team. Okay, very good. We are on to item number 5. Regional Planning 5.1 Caltrans Bay Area Bike Plan Update 2025, and this is an informational item.
I'll just give a brief introduction on this. Hopefully, most of you have been following along with the Caltrans Bay Area Bike Plan Update for 2025. This is an update of Caltrans District 4's 2018 bike plan. So this is the second iteration. We have been working with Caltrans as they've developed this plan. We reviewed their plan and priorities against the plans that SCTCA was managing through the active transportation program for the 7 jurisdictions involved in that, and provided feedback on that on kind of consistency and where we saw projects missing. Just a reminder that the Caltrans Bay Area Bike Plan is for bicycle access on the state highway and across the state highway. So really focusing on access across where bicycles are not permitted on the state highway, and then either access on or parallel to the state facilities where they are permitted. Caltrans is accepting comments on this draft plan through March 31st. So they'll be closing that comment period fairly soon. There is a draft. The draft plan is in your agenda packet, and then there's also a QR code on that first page that links to the comment form online.
Okay, any questions or comments? You have until the 31st. May I ask, what is the next step after receiving comments? Is this, I feel like we've been commenting on it for a while. So.
Yeah, so the comments they received on this public draft will go into developing the final plan.
Okay, get it in now. Okay. Any comments or questions from the floor or from the remote gallery? Thanks, Dina. Okay, we have item 5.2, Countywide Active Transportation Plan GIS Data Boundaries, and we'll have a discussion. It looks like Adam is taking the mic.
Hello, Adam Garcia, data analyst with SCTCA. Just a very brief update for those jurisdictions who were working with us on your ATP update. The data that you received in terms of the shape files for the routes have some slight errors in them in terms of the jurisdictional differences. So for instance, if there was a project that came out of Katati's ATP and it crossed over into the county, there wasn't a necessarily distinction between what the county is responsible for building and what the city is responsible for building. So the totals are a little bit muddled around the edges. So we've been working internally and with the consultant to try to shore that up and make sure that those are accurate, the distances, as well as kind of who the lead is. So a lot of these were multi-jurisdictional projects in that sense, where we're trying to connect along a route, but that might jump in between county and city jurisdiction. So hopefully within the next week or two, we should be receiving updated layers. And we'll be sending those out to you all. And we can use those. I think we're also trying to add street labels into that as well. So something that should have been included in it, but was also left out. So yeah, just expect that be coming from one of us here, and let us know if you have any questions.
I have a question.
Yes.
So does that mean, so if our totals in our ATPs that were in the text of our plans, 53 miles of class 1, are those going to change because they were based on the GIS layers, and maybe some of it will shift over to the county, et cetera?
Yes, exactly. So those totals will likely change a little bit.
Okay.
Varies from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. So
Okay, so when we receive the files, we should double check our actual plans to see if we need to change the tables a little bit.
yeah,
Yeah.
a big part of that is that we're hoping to get finalization is just around the cost estimates too. So just trying to figure out, is that why unincorporated county has such high costs? Because they were being accounted for more than was actually in their jurisdiction. So these are things that we're, hoping to resolve, and we'll definitely add clarification to our email once we send out the updated shape files and results.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the floor? How about remotely? Thanks, Adam.
Thanks.
Okay, we are looking at item 5.3, TDM, plan survey and flyer. The TDM as in transportation demand management.
Yes, it is. So we are developing a strategic transportation demand management plan. We've had a consultant working with us on this since December and are wrapping it up in the next few months. And we have a very brief survey out, just asking about priorities and kind of what would help you shift your mode in terms of transportation demand management programming. So things that really kind of support active transportation and transit modes. We would love for you all to take the survey, and if you have a channel to send it out to others, we would encourage that as well.
Deadline's March 27th.
Wait. Tomorrow, like 2 days from now?
Yeah.
All right, hurry up
Do
and
it.
get going on that survey.
Dina, can you tell us what the next steps will be with that TDM?
Yeah, so we actually we'll have a draft plan as soon as May. So this is one of the pieces of input that is going into the plan. We've also met with, we've held a couple of focus groups, and we have a partnership committee that is helping us with the development of this plan. We will be, bringing that draft plan to committees in May for review and wrapping it up. We're anticipating wrapping it up in June. So this is going to be, it's a fairly quick process, but we are, looking to really help direct SCTCA's work on transportation demand management programs, and kind of help guide the Go Sonoma Act funding for first last mile commuter programs as well.
Will you be working with the jurisdictions with the TDM plan?
We, we are, part of it is to kind of help guide how we do that.
It was in our ATP, and actually several council members expressed concern that it was too much for us to handle. But I persuaded them to leave it in our plan in hopes that we would be able to coordinate efforts. And so I'd like to see that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Fill out the survey. Okay, thank you. Item 5.4, comprehensive transportation plan draft project list.
It's me
And
again.
that is-
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Chris Barney, Director of Planning with SETCA. So we've talked quite a bit about the comprehensive transportation plan and the list and submissions. So thank you so much for number one, reviewing the existing projects in the list and then providing new projects. So I'll just walk through just some of the highlights for the draft list and the timeline going forward on that. So let me go ahead and share those slides. There we go. All right. So we update the comprehensive transportation plan every 4 or 5 years just to make sure it's current and up to date and still represents the goals, objectives, and vision of our agency and committees. So it's been a little while since we've done that. So we kicked off this plan update last year, and we're updating the data in the plan, updating the project list, and have reviewed the vision, policies, and goals of the plan as well. So one major component of the plan is a list of transportation projects and programs that we'd like to work on implementing over the next 25 to 30 years. So with the intent that we'd like to improve our transportation system here and achieve the goals and objectives of our agency. So that's that first part here, identify transportation needs and priorities. We also like to look out into the future and see where our future transportation issues may be, where congestion may be, where major travel flows may be, how we're doing on emissions, how we're doing on supporting different modes of transportation, things like that. So we look at future population and employment growth, line that up with these projects that our member jurisdictions have in mind, and see how things play out, right? See where people are traveling to and from, where they're living, where they're going, and how that impacts our transportation system and quality of life and our environment here in Sonoma County. So another main component of that is feeding projects into our regional transportation plan. So that is known as Plan Bay Area here in Sonoma County. And so for especially larger projects to access regional and some other funding sources, they need to be in that regional plan. So those are generally projects that are $1 million or more, so larger projects. So that's a piece of the puzzle, that funding puzzle. If you're going after those funds, those projects need to start out in our countywide transportation plan. Also at the SETA levels, we administer and program a number of different funding sources as well. So as part of our requirements for doing that, we are required to have a planning document that helps guide our own process. And that includes those goals and including these projects in the CDP. And then we follow those requirements and what we include in the CTP to help identify potential projects for our own funding programs. So here's a look at the draft project list. I believe there are 14 or 15 pages in the agenda packet of very small print from all those projects. So if you'd like a electronic version of that, please reach out and I can provide that. Hopefully you can zoom into the PDF version to areas of your interest and get more information there. But here's kind of a high level look at what's on the draft project list. So when you're considering the big projects that we track in the CTP, so again, these are generally projects that are relatively large with a project cost of $1 million or more. So working with our local jurisdictions and project sponsors, we identified 15 projects that have been in a previous CDP as being completed. So we're making some progress on implementing those projects. We also carried over over 200 projects from our previous CTP. So a lot of these project ideas that were submitted in the past are still priorities, and we still need to work on funding, planning, and implementing those projects. So as part of that process, we updated the cost estimates, construction timelines, and project descriptions for many of those projects. And then we issued a call for new project ideas last fall, and in December, we received over 100 new project ideas. So a lot of new priorities submitted from jurisdictional staff and our partners. Yes.
So I assume the delta between completed carryover and new projects is funding.
That's a big part of it. It's not only funding, there's a lot of design work and other stuff that's involved in that, but certainly there is a big gap in funding. And here on this slide, the estimated project cost is 17 billion for all of those projects. We're looking at over 300 projects in the plan, and only about 5 billion of that's been currently identified. So there is a huge delta. There's a big funding gap in getting those implemented.
And maybe you'll cover this later, but is there a look to non-traditional sources of funding to cover some of these, maybe one-time costs?
We could discuss that as part of the plan. And, I think on an individual project by project basis, that may be the spot to kind of look at how those could be funded. At the countywide large level, we look at existing funding streams and sources, kind of the traditional funding means. But that doesn't mean we could explore some other options kind of at a high level and discuss them. Yeah. So thank you for the comment. Appreciate that. So as I said before, the estimated project cost for these 315 projects is 17 billion. So again, keep in mind, this is looking out 25 to 30 years to 2050. And then the 5 largest projects are listed here on the bullet points. So 2 of those are State Route 37 adaptation projects, both the near-term or interim project and the long-term sea level rise adaptation project at about 4.5 billion. Ongoing operations for SMART is another big cost item that is mostly has identified funding. The transit operations are a big piece of that identified funding going forward. Pavement maintenance is a big cost item as well. So Sonoma County has some of the highest lane mileage in the entire state. So there's a big price tag associated with keeping that pavement up, both for cars, but bikes and buses as well. So
Is that Sonoma County jurisdiction?
That's
Sonoma County
unincorporated.
Unincorporated?
That's just unincorporated. Yeah. I believe maintenance countywide's over 2 billion, 2.2, 2.1 in that range. So, and then looking at smart east-west rail capital enhancements that would be needed to implement transit service between Novato and Suisun City is over $1 billion as well. So that's a newer project in our project list. So just taking a closer look at some of the bicycle and pedestrian projects on the list. There are 103 bicycle and pedestrian projects listed out specifically in the CTP. And one thing I would note is a lot of bicycle, pedestrian, or active projects are smaller, so they don't really hit that $1 million threshold. So what we generally do in the CTP is we have a line item for each jurisdiction that includes and rolls up all of those smaller projects by jurisdiction. So for example, for Cotati, we'll have a line item there that will say implementation of smaller active transportation plan projects with the estimated project cost. So, and that points back directly to that active transportation plan where you can get more information in detail on those smaller scale projects. So looking at all of the larger projects in the CTP, that's 1.2 billion approximately to implement those active transportation projects. And then looking at those smaller ATP projects, that's 486 million. So those are those roll up categories. So looking at the largest 5 projects in the bicycle and pedestrian category in the CTP, one new recommendation was a programmatic project to look at improving active transportation improvements around smart stations with that estimated project cost of 286 million. Regional Parks has proposed completion of the California Coast Trail, providing a bicycle pedestrian connection from Mendocino County to Marin County. So big cost item there. That's a lot of pathway along our coast. Completion of the Smart Pathway also is in the top 5 cost on the bicycle pedestrian side. And then we have 2 Highway 101 bike ped crossings as well, one at Copeland Creek in Rohnert Park and one here in Santa Rosa, connecting the Smart Station with Santa Rosa Junior College. So here to look at the table that's included in the staff report. So you can see a breakdown by different project types, including a breakdown by existing and new projects, along with a count of these projects. So that is also included in the agenda packet if you want to refer to that later. And currently we're working or requesting feedback on the draft and requesting that project sponsors review the draft project list for accuracy and update any information like title, project description, cost, identified funds by April 30th. So taking a quick look at the timeline, we worked with project sponsors to update existing project information back last fall. We issued the call for new CTP projects last winter and received those submissions in December. So we compiled those and the draft list is out for review now with comments and updates requested by April 30th. Once we have those comments all compiled and we make corrections to the project list, we'll start on our CTP performance assessment. And that's where we look at future conditions and all of these projects and how it could impact travel conditions and our performance here in Sonoma County. How would that impact VMT or mode shares or how people are traveling and getting around? So we'll do a modeling and quantitative exercise there or report out on that sometime this summer. And also this summer, our colleagues over on the projects and programming side of our agency will be issuing a SETA funding program cycle 2 call for projects, looking at near-term funding that SETA administers. So there'll be more information on that call later this spring. And then building on that funding program call for projects and submissions for that, we'll be developing a short-term implementation plan for the CTP. This isn't something we've done in the past. We've always looked out to the very far future, but we want to take a look at what we can do in the near term as well, in the next 5 or 10 years with the funding that we administer, but also proposing different policies that we can be working on to achieve our goals here in Sonoma County. And then we'll be working towards developing and finalizing our CTP by the end of this year. So yeah, a lot of work ahead of us still, but yeah, just wanted to make sure you're all aware that the draft list is out, and please take a look, especially for those projects that you're a project sponsor for, and let us know if anything needs to be updated. So happy to take any questions.
Yeah, what is the main citizen input to this planning process? Does that come through the institutions that you're talking to in fall of 2024, or is there a direct route?
So there's definitely a direct route. So through any of our committees, we're happy to take public comment through that process. But we also have a survey up on our website right now, focused specifically on transportation issues and the CTP. So that's definitely one venue to provide feedback. We're also out in the community talking to people about what their what priorities are with, what their transportation priorities are, or, how they would like to get around, how they would like to see things change. So we're trying to get out to each community in Sonoma County at least once or twice, either in an existing event or, tabling at, farmers markets, things like that. So, that's one venue. But happy even, just reach out and shoot me an email. I'd be happy to, set up a meeting. We can talk about projects or the process or any ideas as well. So
Thanks.
Yeah.
And if I can add, we were already at a Sebastopol Farmers Market.
Thanks.
When was that? I haven't gone since the fall.
September, I think. Yeah. But if if there's an event or a meeting that you think it would be useful for us to come to and present at, we'd be happy to come out again. So, yeah, excellent. Yep.
If I could provide a comment. So first of all, thank you for all of this work getting to this point. There's a lot of work to get here, and I appreciate all that. A reflection on the increase in number of projects is that the costs have gone up for construction of projects, and with the threshold of $1 million, we're seeing we had more actual projects on the list rather than projects being consolidated under one category. And so that increased the number of projects for some of the projects for the county. And yeah, taking a broader look at some of the larger continuous sections of trail corridors. So thank you for adding those.
Yeah, it's a really great point. Thanks for bringing that up. We did see a lot of new projects, and it's a good observation that, those project costs may have broken some of those, what were used to be smaller projects up into their own line as part of the CDP. Yeah.
And is it correct that if we want a project to be considered in the next funding cycle, it has to be in the CTP?
We've requested that it's in the CTP. Yeah. So if it's not on there, let us know so we can get it in by April 30th.
That's what we thought. And that's why our project number has increased.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else? So April 30th for staff here, make sure you update your projects. I think there was a discussion in a different committee whether you would take new projects, but I may have to talk to staff about that, because that ship should have sailed, but if it's, I think that's a discussion with Chris.
Yeah, if there's a priority that was omitted for some reason, please reach out and let's talk about that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, item number 6, updates, 6.1, roundtable discussion. So I'll just start real quick. I'm looking at Elizabeth, our partner Regional Parks. We're happy to announce, city's happy to announce that we've put on the agenda for the April 8th City Council meeting, the consideration of approving a construction contract for the trail to Crane Creek Regional Park on 20, yes, I know. See some excitement out there too. April 22nd, the council should be considering a contract for the firm that will be installing the traffic signal at Petaluma Hill Road and Laurel that will connect the campus and the urban area safely to the trail. So this is a long time coming. Elizabeth and I remember, I think it's 2007 when we had an original grant application to the open space district. So they were happy to see that happen, and hopefully, no, it will happen. This summer through sometime through next summer, maybe, that will be under construction for that trail.
Can I just clarify, is the park gonna expand all the way up to Petaluma Hill Road?
Well, the trail will connect to Petaluma Hill Road, and so
Yeah.
you have that direct connection to the park, but the acreage of the park will also expand by about 73 acres. So it pushes it a little bit to the west, some of that open space there.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's really great.
It's very exciting and a long time in coming.
Yeah.
I don't believe your microphone is on.
The green light's on. Huh.
Okay, let's go this direction.
With Katati, we, mostly it's been pedestrian sidewalk stuff lately. We're just closing up, or we're just starting to finish up our sidewalk gap closure project. There's always more gaps to fill. And that's another one that we're doing right now. We're frustrating a lot of drivers because we've closed West Sierra to remove some large eucalyptus in preparation of putting in sidewalks along, and a big gap there. We're also completed all our sidewalk shaving that we like to do to help out our residents with the,
we
and
do.
preserve their trees by shaving for them. And that's about it, except for Saturday, we have our Climate Ready Fair, which is gonna be in Katati at the train station. Lots of booths, goodies, handouts, fun stuff. So come on by. Hopefully it's not raining. That's it.
Saturday? Should be good. Should be good.
Hi there, we are Petaluma, and I'm happy to say that our ATP plan is almost complete. I think by the end of June, we'll have it finished and signed, sealed, and delivered. And then we're going to dive into our next major project, which is wayfinding. And we got stymied the last time we worked on wayfinding signage for our city, but we're hoping that this time that doesn't happen. So that will be our next big push. And Adam or someone else, I know that the trail from our Petaluma North Smart Station to Pengrove, is that opening soon? 26th of this month? Of April, okay. So just look forward to it. We're hoping to have a dedication at the Petaluma end of it with ribbon cutting, which evidently has never been done before. But that's about it for Petaluma. Thank you.
So that's going to be on April 27th at 10:30. So you meet at the station and then bring your bike, and we're going to be riding from the station to Pengrove and then Pengrove back to the station. So you can put your bike on Smart and meet us. So I hope to see everybody there.
Or for those of us who are pedestrians, we will be walking it.
You can do that too.
The town of Windsor is also getting closer to completing its active transportation plan. So we just put it out for public review right now, and it can be accessed on the town of Windsor's Public Works page on the town website. We're hoping to wrap up those comments and finalize the draft and take it to council in the summertime.
Continue the active transportation plans. We're in draft review right now till the 30th of March. So if anybody has any comments, you can go online, our active transportation plan website. So City of Santa Rosa's active transportation plan website to comment on the draft review. We also have coming up in May, I don't know when we're meeting again, right? So probably late in May. So May 10th from 2 to 7, we're going to be doing a bike and block party, closing down 4th Street again between Mendocino and B Street. So there'll be flyers sent out. We'll send it out to everybody here and try to just really spread the word in the future. I'm hoping between now and maybe our next meeting or by the end of the fiscal year that we'll be working on our TFCA funded road diet on Cleveland Avenue. So that'll be on Cleveland between, it's segmented. So between Industrial and Piner Road, and then Piner Road from Cleveland to Range. And so that'll be class 4. So that'll be nice. We've had a lot of issues with vehicles turning out of the Trader Joe's and getting in vehicle accidents. So this is something that SRPD has been asking for a while. So I'm thankful that we got it funded. And there is going to be a second portion that's going to go all the way to Hopper, but we're trying to figure out strategically how to do that in-house. And then there will be more to come at the next meeting. Thanks.
I don't have anything more.
City of Sebastopol has 2 planner positions open if anyone's looking for an upgrade or a change.
Okay. Right, thank you. Item 6.2, shared micromobility updates. I'm looking towards that.
Yeah, I could just give a brief update about the Redwood Bike Share program. Yes, just a brief update about the Redwood Bike Share program, and thank you, Eris, for sharing information about the work you're doing with them on training and rides and education. We are continuing to build out the pilot with the addition of bikes in Santa Rosa earlier this month and the addition of bikes in Novato now. So there are still a handful of hub locations identified for the pilot that have not been added. So the team is continuing to work with Santa Rosa Junior College. I actually believe that the Sonoma State University hubs have been added as well. And I believe there's a few more locations kind of infilling the network that are to be added through the pilot. Looking forward to a lot of outreach and kind of marketing in the spring and with the bike month and more to come. I think we have a working group meeting next month, so we'll be able to get the data for the first quarter of this year then.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the data when, as the weather starts to improve. I expect we'll see a spike in this next couple of weeks before we have our regular quarterly bike share.
Can I ask a question on that? I just noticed that when I wrote it, it was kind of expensive. So how did we figure the price point on that? And I know there's like an equity program, but like some people don't qualify for that. So it seems like I rode from like our Cuttingtown hub, right, location just to the Smart Hub location and back, and it was like $3.25. And I was like, that was only like 10 minutes, right?
So I would highly encourage and promote the monthly pass. It's $20 a month and includes 30 minutes per day of free ride time. The pay-as-you-go option is certainly much more expensive. I will just note it is far below comparable systems throughout the region and the nation. So, while it might seem high for a short ride, it is, we did really work hard to keep the pricing low during this pilot program, and the monthly membership makes it much more affordable for regular users.
Do you have ridership kind of numbers?
Yeah, so we'll have those for the first quarter of the year after the end of this quarter. So,
Okay.
next week, actually.
Very interesting. Okay, any other questions on? Oh, Tina, okay.
It wasn't a question. I just wasn't sure if the roundtable went to the Zoom.
Oh, it did not. I'm sorry. Can we back up one? Let's back up. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that National Bike to School Day, Sonoma County's Bike to School Day is Wednesday, May 7th, and we're taking registrations from schools right now. Registration closes on April 9th. So if you're associated with a school, let them know they can register. There's a link on our website. If you scroll down to the Bike to School Day page, and we've sent it out in the e-news, and we've been contacting schools and reminding them if they've participated in the past. And we have a family bike workshop in Sebastopol on April 26th. That is at Sebastopol Independent Charter School, but it is open to the public. So, if there's anyone in Sebastopol that is willing and able to share that information, that would be great. I know we were sharing it with the school and the district, but yeah, other shares would be great. I don't think we've only had 1 or 2 families register so far.
Can you forward that information?
Yes, absolutely, I can. Who was that again?
This is Gavin Waters.
Gavin Waters, okay.
Yeah.
Can you put your email in the chat? Because I don't know if I'm in touch with you.
It's gwaters50@gmail.
gwaters50@gmail. Okay, well.
Hey, Christina, it's Drew. If you email me, I can forward that over to Gavin.
That would be great. Thanks. I didn't have a pen handy. And then we also have a family bike workshop in Petaluma on June 21st at the Lucchese Park. That's like, we've done that. It's like our 5th annual one. It's usually filled, but we love, again, if there's Petalumans, I will definitely be sharing that with schools and the city. They usually share it out. So, those are the main things. Oh, just FYI, for those of you, we are, even, I love that the county plans, site assessments are going to include these plans that are like ready to pop into grants. But I wanted to just point out that we have been doing site assessments in both Santa Rosa and in Petaluma. And we actually just had one at Pengrove Elementary School that Stephen Hunter and his team from the county ATP department were involved with. And while we do not do plans that can be popped into a grant application, we do identify the barriers and we work with the city staff to identify what the potential improvements are and put them into a report. And so if anyone's interested in the schools that we assessed in Petaluma or in Santa Rosa, we do post the final reports up on our website on the task force pages for Santa Rosa and Petaluma, which are a little bit buried. But if you explore our site, go under events and plans and task forces, and you go to the page for Santa Rosa or Petaluma, you can see any report that we've done for any of the schools that we've done assessments of. And we're willing to do more of those as well. Again, I really look forward to partnering with the county SCTCA, the consultants, to see how those go. And maybe we can, as we move forward, we can even improve how we do them right now within our own program. So.
And that website is sonomasaferoutes.org.
sonomasaferoutes.org. And if you go to events and plans, you'll see a little underneath that, it'll say task forces, and then there's like a list of cities, and there, if you click on Santa Rosa or Petaluma, you'll see their task force pages, and then there's like, we just have a hyperlink. It's a bit buried right now. I can make a better link to it, but I just have a little link, prioritized list of schools, and that's because each of those towns prioritize their own list of schools. And so we've gone through and audited schools in order of priority. For the most part, Santa Rosa, we started the priority list like 3 schools in, but since then we've gone in order.
Super, thanks. Sorry to not go to the gallery for the roundtable. I'll remember next time. Thanks, Tina. Item 6.3, update on SCTA loaner equipment replacement. So these are counters?
Yes. Just, I guess, a regular announcement that we have our bike and pedestrian counting equipment available free of charge to be deployed out into your streets if you want to be able to particular test the before and after effects of bicycle or pedestrian infrastructure projects. I know we have kind of before for some Copeland Creek areas. I thought I remember Jason saying maybe there was going to be a need this summer. Do you have any?
I'm sure we will have a need.
Okay,
Yeah,
so-
depending because of the, like before and after, and also checking for other outreach areas for the Copeland Creek study.
Okay, great. So yeah, got one sometime to do for Roner Park. I think we'll be looking at the Lakeville corridor, also in Petaluma. That's also related to the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant, trying to get some head and bike counts. So yeah, it's a great resource. We're happy to help out. We can do, I think I mentioned this before, kind of the warm body counts that either counts bicyclists or pedestrians, doesn't really distinguish. And then we also have a counter that does distinguish between bicyclists and pedestrians if you'd like. So lots of options, especially for any types of projects, yeah, that you'd want to be able to share the effectiveness potentially for a grant application or something along those lines. So that's it.
It's a cool thing. Okay, item number 7, other business comments, announcements. Anyone?
Super briefly, everyone's homework, March 27th, TDM survey, less than 5 minutes. April 30th, CTP comments. March 31st, Caltrans bike plan. March 30th, the Santa Rosa ATP draft comments, and that is all.
Just do it while you're doing a Zoom meeting that you're not really paying attention to. Never. All right. Anything else?
I've got something.
Drew.
So I'll be transitioning out of my role here as clerk of the board, and I'll be moving on to a position at MTC. My last day here is next Friday, and I will begin at MTC in about mid-April. So I want to let my dear colleagues know, A, my departure, but B, keep your eyes out for Ross Clendenin's email, as he will be sending meeting notifications, and that there will be a bit of a transition and adjustment. So you won't be seeing my name attached with agenda packets, at least for the next time being. And it has been a great pleasure and honor, and very excited to have served the residents of Sonoma County through this capacity. I am a product of Elsie Allen High School and of Santa Rosa Junior College and Sonoma State University, so I feel very much at home and very happy to have supported this team and my dear colleagues.
Drew, congratulations on the new position.
But how am I going to get the word Drew out of my search box?
That's how I search mine too. That's the only way I know, especially if you're gonna change SCT, SCCT.
None of us get it right.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you for spending time with this committee, with the other committees. You have been an integral part of building, creating, and just reinforcing and really moving transportation forward here in Sonoma County. I'm glad you've been part of it. We're going to miss you. I don't know how I'm gonna, just Drew is how I look for things, but I guess I'll just pop over to MTC.
Yes.
You will, yeah, you will be missed. You will be missed. So thank you for everything you've done.
And I will miss it.
Truly will be, truly will be. We will really miss you, Drew. You've been such a great support. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Somebody better tell us where the party is.
Sorry?
Someone has to tell us where the party is for you.
I don't even know those details.
We'll make some up.
I think Dana has them.
Okay, item number 8, adjourn. I don't know if this needs an action or not, but otherwise we just concur to adjourn.
Thank
All right.